Hi, this is Richard Baker from truevan.co.uk. This is a review of the Renault Kangoo van ZE 100% electric. Okay, so what's it like living with an electric van? I know I've done this on the other channel on the Nissan EMV 200, but for those of you that are watching this video from the start, what's it like starting it up for the first time? Well, let's just go through that routine, shall we? So very much like a petrol diesel, you've got here a key that goes in the ignition, and you turn the ignition fully so that go light comes on, and then it's just like an automatic, you take it out of park into drive, which is displayed there. The display, you can't quite see it. Handbrake off. Right, so setting off, as you can tell, it's pretty quiet. In fact, I'll just turn the aircon off. That's an artificial noise you can hear for as much as anything for pedestrians. It's very smooth, very quiet, as you'd expect from an electric vehicle. The thing about this van, it's got very keen regen, so arguably if you're driving this vehicle considerately, then you can be very, very light on the brakes. And what I've noticed is that if you plan a little bit further ahead, you can come to a complete stop virtually just on the regeneration. You don't have to apply the foot brake, unless of course you need to brake sharply or suddenly, but this, look, is on regen. So yeah, it's very good. So far I've done some motorway driving for about 12 miles, and I've done some country lane driving and some urban driving. I started off with the maximum range of 118 miles. I've done probably about 16, and the range has only gone down 17, so it's pretty impressive. And I think particularly when you're driving sort of stop-start, like now, I've come to a complete standstill and I've not touched the brake. So this is where the regen comes in and just increases your range, which I know everybody worries about the range, but the point I'm going to come on to about these vans is for a commercial operator in certain circumstances, this particular vehicle will work exceptionally well. I think you've got to think in terms of, if you run a fleet of these vans which are back to base and are going to get the opportunity to be charged up overnight, then savings on fuel alone will be somewhere in the region of about 65%, something like that, maybe 70% compared to the diesel equivalent doing 40 miles to the gallon. So I'm going to do the numbers later in this video so you can see more precisely what I'm talking about, but certainly I think there's a place for these vans, and it's going to need to be, because with the urban charging coming in, London being the first place, you've got Birmingham, you've got Leeds, you've got Sheffield, you've got other places coming on stream wanting to charge for a congestion charge, then we're going to be forced to consider this sort of vehicle. There's no two ways about it. So this is really the point of this video, is to tell you what the benefits of running a vehicle like this are, why you're going to need to consider using it. So what's it like driving this vehicle on a day-to-day basis? Well, it's just like an ordinary vehicle. It's very smooth, it's very responsive, off the mark, like most electric vehicles, it's quite quick. And then you've got the regen braking facility, which is very strong, as I say, so maintenance costs should be really minimal. You haven't got the componentry of a petrol diesel, so it's going to be a cheaper to run vehicle anyway. So yeah, it's easy to drive, it's more relaxing. If you've got a driver doing multiple stops in an urban area, then from from that point of view, it's going to be less tiring to drive, simpler to drive, and more enjoyable. So what's there not to like about it? If you can understand the differences on range and just thinking about your journeys with the vehicle. Loads of people will say, oh, I need 100, 200 miles a day range. Well, do you really? And this is really where a discussion needs to be taking place about your actual usage of the vehicles, because the savings are considerable, and like I said earlier, you can expect to get payback on one of these vehicles on fuel saving alone in probably about 7.5 years. So and then when you factor in the lower maintenance costs, then it's got to be something very worthwhile considering. So when you're driving in an urban environment, you might be thinking about driver safety, obviously for your van drivers. Well, because it's willingness to regenerate, and it's quite a strong regeneration, you feel as if you're having to push the van a little bit to go faster. So that's good in terms of keeping within speed limits and this sort of thing. It's not sluggish by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a safe vehicle, I would say, to drive. So I think that's another aspect I would consider. Yeah, I've been doing now about 25-30 miles, very much of this stop-start type driving that you'd expect from this van in urban areas, stopping, starting, setting off, braking, this sort of thing. And in terms of the range, it's only dropped in terms of that sort of mileage. So what I would say is that it's you know, range anxiety. Well, if you know where you're going, roughly speaking, and you're planning for it, then there can't be really any issues. The battery does last for the period that you'd expect it to. So I think it would be ideally suited to an urban environment where you know the kind of journeys you're going to be doing. Let's now look at the features of the van, starting with the comfortable cab area. Okay, so let's just have a look in the back, see how much room there is. That's what you'd expect really for a size of van, this overall size. As a rule of thumb, I'd say floor length about 5 foot and height about 3.5, 4 foot. And for those that are interested, what does it look like under the bonnet of one of these electric vehicles? Well, you've got a 12-volt battery like a normal petrol diesel, and then you've got your motor, electric motor and transmission and all the other bits. So even the engine bay on one of these is pretty well much filled. And some of you may be thinking, well, where is the battery? Well, it's just underneath that area there, spanning the whole width of the van. So it's not really that much bigger, the battery, than a standard petrol or diesel fuel tank. Okay, so to charge this vehicle, all you need to do is lift the flap there and then this flap here to reveal the charge point, type 2 connector. And then you grab the plug, which is like so, plug in, it lights up there to indicate it's connecting. The electronics in the vehicle then talk to the charge point, and soon it begins to charge. And then it just shows that it's charging there with that little plug symbol there on the instrument display. Right, so let's have a look at the cost savings on this display here. First, on the left, we've got an electric vehicle like this Kangoo. Now, 15 pence is the average price we'd expect to pay per kilowatt of usage, and of a van of this size carrying a relatively light load, then we reasonably expect the vehicle to do about 3 miles per kilowatt. This is certainly from our experience of running a sister vehicle, the fully electric Zoe car. So we've run that car for about 10,000 miles now, so in varying conditions, so we can say that with a fair degree of authority. Let's then compare on the right with a diesel van of the same sort of size as this Kangoo. Currently, at the time of recording, £1.32 per litre of diesel is the going rate, times 4.54 litres per gallon equals £6 per gallon. A vehicle of that sort of size, 40 miles per gallon, about average, about what you'd expect. So £6 divided by 40 miles gives us a cost per mile of a diesel van of this size of 15p. So looking back to the electric on the left, 3 miles into 15p gives us 5p per mile. So there you can see straight away we've got a 67% saving over diesel. Now let's look at a typical example for a van of this size, part of say a small fleet or a single van doing some urban runs day in, day out, every day. Why would an electric van of this size going on within a specific radius, say in an urban setting, going back to base, being charged overnight, why would it work? How do the numbers stack up? Well, let's look at this example. 80 miles per day is not by any stretch unusual for a vehicle of this sort of size, maybe less miles, but let's work on 80 miles per day. 80 miles per day times 5 working days each week times, let's say for argument's sake, 50 weeks per year. So we've got 80 miles times 5p equals a total energy cost per day for an electric van of £4 per day. Flip over then to a diesel. 80 miles times, well, that's 2 gallons at 40 miles per gallon, so 2 times £6 per gallon, £12 a day. So straight away you're saving £8 per day on your fuel cost, electric versus diesel. So let's say for argument's sake this vehicle has a useful running time of 7 years from new, and therefore 5 working days times 50 weeks per year times 7 working years gives a useful lifetime's usage for this van of 1,750 days. 1,750 days, it's an £8 a day saving, electric versus diesel, gives us an overall 7 years saving on fuel of £14,000. Now a diesel van road tax currently, irrespective of size, up to 3.5 tonnes is £260 per year. So that is a saving each year, because an electric van currently has no road tax. At the moment the take-up of electric is pretty slow, so I would say for a good half of the life of an electric van it's still probably going to be 0 or near to 0 road tax, and may well be that for the full 7 years. So I think it's reasonable therefore to say, well, we'll save £260 a year for 7 years, 1,820 is the total saving. And then let's look at a diesel vehicle. Roughly it's going to need a service every year, and let's say for argument's sake, real world, £250 a service, so 7 annual services let's say, and then 140,000 miles if it's doing 80 miles a day is the expected sort of mileage it'll have after 7 years. Let's work on the conservative side, 7 lots of brake pads at, again, fairly cheap, £100 a change of pads. So 7 services at £250 each, 7 lots of brake pads at £100 each gives us a total servicing bill of £2,450. Now there's less componentry with a electric vehicle, as we said in the video, so let's say half that cost. The battery is expected to last at least 7 years or more easily, that's from our experience. We've done a lot of rapid charging on our Zoe. What else is to go wrong really? Very few moving parts, so let's half the diesel van servicing and brake cost to £1,250. Tyres will wear out the same as a diesel or electric, so too will a 12-volt battery. Yes, on a diesel vehicle you'll probably need a new exhaust in that 7-year period, say £200, but let's exclude that. So let's just work on a total estimated saving. £14,000 saving on fuel over the 7 years, £1,820 on road tax, £1,250 on servicing and brakes, a grand total of £17,070 saving. Now Now currently I could probably get one of these electric vans for around about 16,500 plus VAT. Do talk to me if you are seriously interested. There may be some movement on that. If you're wanting a fleet, yes, can always talk about that. If you were to buy an electric van now and then put into a bank account the difference in the running costs, so over the 7-year period you're going to run an electric vehicle, and then at the end of the 7 years you'll have accumulated, hey presto, 17,000 just over, enough to buy another van. So it's like buy an electric van and then wait 7 years and get another one free. So it therefore makes it very, very attractive. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the current generation of petrol and diesel vehicles out on the road, and those yet to be made in the coming few years, will still have their place, because of course there's still plenty of drivers who need to go further afield, longer distances between one town and another. So they still are going to have the place, but in between will be electric vehicles as well, and the hybrids of course. So you'll be thinking now, right, okay, well the vehicle's fine, but what about the charging infrastructure? So I'm here now with Brad Denton of Affinity Electrical Services in Sheffield, and we're going to start focusing on a typical unit that would suit the Kangoo electric van. Now yes, there are a range of different charge units that you could install in your premises, whether it be a shop, factory, office premises, but what we're going to try and do is break down some of that cloud of uncertainty that you may have in terms of, well, how do we put the charge points in our premises to charge this van? So without further ado, Brad, let's have a look at a typical unit that might suit your needs. Okay, Brad, so this happens to be one of different units you can install, but let's focus in on this Rolex charge point.
This is a basic charger.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rolex manufacture these units. Yeah. And there are different versions and different brands, well, not different brands, but certainly different versions of this unit, single phase and 3-phase. So if a customer has, or a potential customer has, a single phase board that we can only install a single phase unit, we'll be able to establish that at the point of doing the site survey. We will then recommend that we do a design on this so that it's not going to cause any nuisance tripping, because the last thing that we want is for a charge point, when somebody plugs a car in, to trip all the house out, or to trip all a manufacturing unit or any kind of commercial business. Yeah. So it's important that we do a site survey before we install anything like this. Right. Obviously there are different versions, but they all sort of come around about, certainly the double socket units, come in at around about £800, right, at the starting price for this particular unit. Obviously then there's groundworks and things like that to establish, but because we're OLEV approved and we're Rolex approved installers, we can help people with grants. Yes. And actually show people how to apply for grants and help them with that. Not only that, but the grants themselves are 75% of the overall cost, capped at £500 per socket. Now when you think that per socket, that means one socket. If you've got 2 sockets on one unit that costs £800, that knocks that cost straight out. So you've got 1 socket on this unit, but there are units where you've got 2 sockets. Yeah. So you would get £1,000 off that unit.
And then the cost of that particular unit there is, well, we're talking about the double socket version.
Yes.
£800 thereabouts.
Round about that.
Plus VAT.
Plus VAT.
Yeah. So what you're looking at is the cost of the unit itself is a double socket version is £800 plus VAT.
Thereabouts.
And then minus off £1,000 because it's twin socket.
But it's on the overall cost, including the installation.
Yes.
So it's £1,000 for 2 sockets.
Yes.
Off the overall cost of the installation.
And then obviously that's the crucial part, subject to the survey.
Exactly.
So what we're actually saying is, how long's a piece of string? Well, we don't know. It's down to your individual premises. Yeah. So we're talking about
distribution boards and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but we'd establish that. We'd happily go along and do a free of charge initial survey, and then after that we would discuss with whoever it is that we're doing the survey with how to best move forward on that, and we would help them.
Yeah. Right. Okay, that's great. Okay, so conclusions about this Renault Kangoo ZE all-electric van. I think it's certainly got its place if you are going to be operating it within a sort of planned area of base. Then you can plan to charge it overnight and then use it for its expected mileage during the day. I think it has got a limitation in that it doesn't allow for a rapid charge if you're out and about, and you needed that a little bit more of a top up, say 30-40 miles in half an hour, 40-minute stopover on public charges. So it doesn't have that capability at the moment. And talking to Renault, they're saying no, that's not planned for this vehicle. A future replacement, then that may be present, and I think that does need to be present to have that extra flexibility. But in terms of drivability, it's great on the road. It's smooth, easy to drive. It drives like a car. There's no issues at all with it whatsoever. And I don't think, I can't see it being a problem in terms of its expected load either. There doesn't seem to be much, practically speaking, limitations there in terms of, for a van of this size, what do you really need to be carrying? It's easily comparable to a diesel van of its same size. And then with the cost savings that I've covered, this van will pay for itself within 7 years, I expect. So to get the best value out of a vehicle, if you're running a fleet like this, then sort of 7-8 year cycle is a good idea. So very quickly the cost savings will start to mount up, and with legislation on urban charging like we've got in London now coming to other cities around the UK, it's not a question of, well, I'll hold back. I think we're going to be forced into it, generally all of us, to run certainly hybrids, and full electric is the preferred route. So even though there are limitations with full electric vehicles with current technology, lithium-ion battery technology, and I think we are reaching the boundaries of what's capable with that, living with the technology for the next few years as it is now until, say, solid state batteries come online, then planning our journeys more is going to be a must, I think, unfortunately, for a lot of us. To comply with urban charging as we've got in London. So therefore, the sooner we get our heads around vehicles like this, the better, I would say. I know a lot of people are holding back on range anxiety and then charge time when you're on a journey, but for most of the time, most people don't go that far, I would suspect. And then if you do need to go further afield, then that's when your hybrids come in. So I think that's where I see it going personally in the next few years. And then we'll get the introduction of solid state batteries, which will, I suspect, will make quite a difference, where you will get the same sort of charge, well, get a full tank, from empty to a full tank in effect in minutes, like you do with petrol diesel. But that's a while off yet. It's still in development stage. So thanks for watching. Please do subscribe and press the bell notification, and I'll see you soon.